How well do you truly know the person you share your life with? I don't mean their favorite color or how they take their coffee. I mean, do you know the contours of their heart, the secrets they keep locked away behind their eyes? For 11 years, I believed I did. Our shared history was etched into the lines of my hands. We were high school sweethearts, the couple everyone pointed to as proof that true love existed. We had a home, a history, a future that seemed as solid and certain as the ground beneath my feet. I'm about to tell you how I learned that the ground I was standing on was nothing but a sinkhole, and it was about to swallow my entire world. It all started not with a bang, but with a quiet conversation on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. My fiancée, we'll call her Fiona, and I had been a single entity since we were teenagers. She was 18, I was 19. We navigated the treacherous waters of university, the anxiety of our first real jobs, and the quiet comfort of building a domestic life, always side by side. I'm a mechanical engineer. My world is governed by logic, by physics, by things that fit together with precision. And Fiona was the central gear in the machine of my life, the part that made everything else turn smoothly. Last year, we bought our first house. It was our masterpiece. We spent every weekend pouring our sweat, our savings, and our dreams into its walls. I can still smell the fresh paint in the hallway, remember the exact spot in the living room where we'd argue playfully about where the Christmas tree would go. At 30 years old, with the woman I loved, in the home we built, my future felt like a beautifully engineered design. It was, in fact, a catastrophic failure waiting to happen. This past March, the machine began to sputter. Our team at work expanded, and a new electrical engineer, James, joined the company. We were in different departments, but our projects required us to collaborate constantly. He was a decent guy, sharp with a quick sense of humor. We quickly found some common ground, a few mutual acquaintances from our hometowns, that strange small world connection that makes a new person feel less like a stranger. During one of our first real conversations, a lull between discussing blueprints, he asked about my personal life. "Are you with someone?" he asked, his tone casual. I told him about Fiona, proudly recounting our 11 years together. At the time, I registered it as a bit direct for a new colleague, a tiny dissonant note in an otherwise perfect symphony. But I dismissed it. Just friendly chatter, a way to break the ice. At home, when I'd mentioned my day, James was just another name. Fiona had no idea who he really was, and I had no idea he was a ticking bomb delivered directly to my desk. Fast forward to a warm evening in early June, the annual company summer party. It was a good night, the kind where professional boundaries blur into easy camaraderie. We stayed out late, sharing stories and laughs until we realized we'd all missed the last train home. My phone lit up. Fiona, on her way to pick me up. Being the decent friend, I turned to James, who was also stranded. "Hey, my fiancé is coming to get me. Need a lift?" The smile vanished from his face. His easygoing demeanor was replaced by a sudden, unnerving gravity. He looked me straight in the eye and said the 6 words that would haunt me for weeks. "That can't happen, and we need to talk." The air around us went cold. My mind, fuzzy from the beer, snapped into high alert. What can't happen? Why do we need to talk? 2 other colleagues were getting a lift with us, so the car ride was a masterclass in forced normalcy. They chattered away, oblivious, while I sat there, a silent storm raging in my chest. James said nothing. I dropped him off last. As he got out, he just said, "I'll message you next week," and closed the door, leaving me in a profound and terrifying silence. The following week was torture. Every ping from my computer made my heart leap. Finally, the message appeared. It was James. "What are you doing for lunch?" It was an odd invitation. He had his lunch crew, I had mine. We never crossed those streams. He suggested a small cafe, a few blocks from the office, somewhere quiet. When I met him in the lobby, the jovial colleague I knew was gone. In his place was a man weighed down by a heavy burden. The short walk to the cafe was the longest of my life. The sounds of the city faded into a dull roar. My mind raced through 1,000 possibilities. Was he in financial trouble? Was he sick? Never, not in a million years, did my thoughts drift toward the real reason. We sat down at a small table in the back. He didn't waste time with small talk. He looked at me with an expression of deep regret, and then he began to systematically demolish my life brick by brick. He told me that 7 years ago, he met Fiona. She was in Ibiza on that girls' trip, the one she'd talked about for months, the one I encouraged her to go on. He said they didn't just meet, they spent most of the holiday inseparable. And then, as if to prove he wasn't lying, he slid his phone across the table. I hesitated, my hand trembling slightly. Then I looked. It was her, Fiona, younger, tanned, and beaming with a kind of unrestrained joy I hadn't seen in years. Her arm was slung comfortably around James's shoulder. They looked like a couple. It felt like a physical blow, knocking the air out of my lungs. But that was just the first tremor. The earthquake was yet to come. He took a deep breath and continued. About 6 months after Ibiza, after she had returned to me, to our life, she contacted him out of the blue. She told him she was leaving me and wanted to see him again. A breakup that never ever happened. For the next 6 months, while I was working my ass off, putting in overtime to save for our future, while I was away on weekends with my Sunday league team, she was living a complete double life. He showed me the messages. I scrolled through conversations that felt alien and monstrous. Her words, her jokes, her affection, all directed at him. I saw the timestamps. 11:30 a.m. on a Tuesday, when I was in a department meeting. 3 p.m. on a Friday, when I was on a factory floor. My world began to tilt on its axis. The deceit wasn't just impulsive. It was a masterpiece of logistics and lies. But then he told me one more story. One detail so specific, so cruel, that it shattered whatever was left of my composure. I remembered a regional cup semifinal. It was the most important game of my season, of my amateur career. I was desperate for her to be there, but she told me, with so much seeming regret, that she had to work a double shift and just couldn't get out of it. I remember the pang of disappointment as I saw the other guys' partners cheering from the sidelines. I understood, of course, we have bills to pay. James looked at his phone again, his face grim. He showed me one last picture. It was of Fiona. On that exact day, the timestamp read 13:11, 10 minutes into the second half of my game. She wasn't at work. She was at Loch Lomond on a picturesque day out with him. She was smiling, laughing, holding a piece of bread to a duck by the water's edge. While I was on a muddy field, my lungs burning, giving everything I had for my team, she was in another world, living a beautiful, perfect lie. The memory of my simple disappointment from that day instantly curdled into a white-hot, suffocating rage and a grief so profound I thought I might pass out right there in that cafe. And the final, brutal twist of the knife? Her friends. Our friends. The women I had known for nearly 2 decades. They were in some of the Ibiza pictures, smiling right alongside her and James. One of them, whose children call me uncle, the kids I watch when she needs a babysitter. They all knew. For 7 years, they watched me build a life on a foundation of lies, and they never said a single word. For a month after that conversation, I was a ghost. I lived in my own house, but it was no longer my home. I looked at the woman I was supposed to marry, and I saw a stranger. Every I love you, every shared meal, every night we spent in the same bed felt like a horror movie. The destination holiday we had booked for the following week loomed over me like a death sentence. How could I go? How could I sit on a beach with her and pretend everything was fine? I was about to have a complete meltdown. So that Friday, I came home, my heart a cold, heavy stone in my chest, and I confronted her. I laid everything out on the table. Ibiza, James, the 6-month affair, the cup final, her friends. I expected denials, tears, accusations of insanity. Instead, she just deflated. She didn't deny a single word. Her first words were, "I was always afraid the past would catch up with me." Her excuse was a pathetic, insulting cliché, After Ibiza, she was having second thoughts, and her time with James somehow made her realize that I was the one. She seemed genuinely shocked, bewildered, when I told her, in a voice I didn't recognize as my own, that it was over. Not just over, but annihilated. She admitted her friends knew about the intimacy in Ibiza, but swore they didn't know about the 6-month affair. At that point, it didn't matter. The betrayal was absolute, a conspiracy of silence among people I trusted most. So here I am now. The house we built with our hands is now a cold asset being divided by solicitors. The only silver lining is the equity. My share might be enough to get a small flat without a mortgage, a truly clean slate. I'm crashing in my friend's spare room. In a moment of supreme irony, James offered me his spare room for as long as I needed, a bizarrely kind gesture from the man who was both the messenger and a part of the wreckage. I declined.